Welcome. You've got mail.
It's the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast with Justin and Sean. Take it away, guys.
Alrighty, everybody, what's up? This is the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast. I'm Justin. There's Sean. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I gotta say, this is like the epitome of the Millennial Midlife Crisis. We're doing a live podcast on a Saturday night because we don't have anything better to do or anything else to be.
No, and to be honest, like we were talking before the show, this would have been started probably an hour ago, but my son is going through the glorious phase of teething, and I don't remember this being as big of a problem as it was. Wait, let me try that again. See, I'm already tired. I remember this being easier with my daughter, so I don't know if it's because he's getting like 3 at the same time. All 3 of his top teeth are coming in at once. He's only got 3 bottom teeth right now. He looks like Cletus from The Simpsons. He's kind of got that look going. So yeah, this would have been much earlier. So I apologize. We probably would have been doing a couple more shows here and there, but children just get in the way of everything. But God love them. So anyway,
future.
yes, children are the future. You're right. So tonight though, we have a nice topic. Obviously, I just got done with spring break. My school district spring break ended on Monday. We were done. But that got us thinking. Spring break, MTV spring break, which made me think of MTV, which made me tell Sean, hey, why don't we discuss our favorite shows from MTV from the 90s and I guess early 2000s too, because I'll be honest, that's probably more when I got into MTV. I was more of a VH1 kid in the 90s until MTV. And then once I got to high school, then I really got into MTV. So we're going to regale you with some stories of shows from MTV in the 90s and early 2000s, maybe some music videos that we recall, maybe some game shows they had. There's a few good dating shows I remember them having, especially in the early 2000s. Whatever strikes our fancy. But I guess before we get started with that, Sean, anything new and exciting with you?
No, I wish I had something new or good to report.
You're not teething, are you?
I am not teething. True. I'm in that between age where I have all my teeth and I've yet to lose any teeth. So I guess we're doing okay there. No.
I for the longest time, that was my like recurring dream, was all my teeth falling out. And I know that means something. Actually, I want to say, you know what? I'm just going to look it up because we have the power of the internet. But I remember it had something to do with anxiety. Yes. So I used to have that dream probably at least once a month.
Wow.
It was really bad. And obviously I have generalized anxiety disorder with a little bit of OCD touch there too. And then once I got medication for my anxiety and got it under control, oddly enough, I have not had that dream in probably a couple of years now. So, but it was the worst because it was like this dream where I would bite into something and then I would like take a bite and take the food out of my mouth and just my teeth would just start coming out like I could just pull them out. Literally. It was awful. And then I just remember being like, oh my God, my wife's gonna leave me because I have no teeth.
I thought maybe you played that. What was that board game that when we were kids, where you had to pull the teeth out of the alligator? I thought maybe you played that one 20 times.
Was it alligator? No, alligator dentist, crocodile dentist,
something like that.
Oh man, yes, crocodile dentist. You can actually buy it at Target for $9.99.
That's a deal.
I
would play that again. Yeah. I would. I used to play
I would too. I would too. Yeah, that's not bad. That was a decent game. Remind me, we need to do an episode about best board games from our childhood.
That may be on the list already. Actually.
That might be. You might be right. So, all right. Well, where do you want to start? Let's just dive in.
Good.
First off, like, I don't know about you. I remember being in like 6th grade, 7th grade and seeing MTV Spring Break for the first time. I remember Carson Daly. It was like the SS Spring Break. They were taking the cruise down to the Bahamas and they had, musical acts and all these things. And I just remember thinking that was the coolest thing as a 6th grader. Yeah. I remember that's also when TRL was really getting going. And I was absolutely hooked on TRL. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
loved
no,
it.
yeah, I would check in every day. So yeah, I guess I was hooked.
But like for you, what when you think of MTV 90s, early 2000s, what show are you watching or remembering right off the bat?
Oh, I like probably like Beavis and Butthead or Daria.
Okay. Now, what got you into Beavis and Butthead? I have to ask because I'll be honest, that is a show that never appealed to me. I mean, I know what it is. I got the gist of it. I know the
um,
characters,
the
but like, I don't
reason
know I don't know why I could not get into that show.
the reason I'm laughing so hard is because it was my dad. Uh,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
it, and I used to watch it with him, and obviously probably is not even close to appropriate, but it
Yeah,
happened. And
it's good, makes for good memory.
yeah. And well, hell, I remember when the movie came out and we rented it, and I must have watched it like 15 times before we had to bring it back because I thought it
Really.
was like the funniest movie ever.
There's, it's funny you bring that up because like Mike Judge wrote and directed that, right? Or just wrote it?
Yes.
I know he did. Okay, he did the animation. I know,
Well,
but
I mean, he does the
he did
voices. He
everything.
does. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
What's
super involved.
this might be a hot take. I love Office Space. I love Idiocracy was okay. I think Idiocracy bums me out now because I feel like we are not to get political, but we are way on a speeding train headed towards that future. But anyway, I love Office Space. I do enjoy King of the Hill to a certain, but the Mike Judge animation just always creeped me out. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was kind of turned off, especially Beavis and Butthead. King of the Hill is a little bit different, different vibe.
Yeah.
But I think that's what kept me out of it. I do remember I remember the Beavis and Butthead video game. I think I might have rented that at some point just because. Is there a certain episode that like you really recall? I know they played music videos in between sometimes, right?
That's some of the greatest like moments of Beavis and Butthead is when they watch the music videos and they either rock out to them and they're
Mhm.
super dorky, which makes it hilarious, or it's something like Milli Vanilli or something, and they just rip it apart. And that was fun to watch too. Now, when they brought it back a couple years ago, they started watching MTV TV shows.
Oh, okay.
So they started watching like 16 and Pregnant, and they started watching Jersey Shore, and like that had some amazing jokes in it. Like one of them was there's a if anyone ever watched Jersey Shore, I watched it here and there. I couldn't really do it.
Sure.
Um, they have a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and they literally draw lines to who had relations with who. Okay.
Okay.
And Beavis and Butthead's comment was, "If you follow the line, you could see where herpes started." And it's like, it's just funny. And then like they watch the Katy Perry video, Firework, and they're like
Mhm.
just blown away, and they're like, "Whoa, fireworks come out of her boobs!" Like it's just, it's so. I'll be the first one to admit, super stupid,
Yeah.
super stupid, but I will giggle every time. Like the movie still makes me laugh. It's one of those movies where I know every line, I know every joke that's coming that I enjoy, and I still giggle like a child.
I you mentioned this when you brought up Beavis and Butthead, and I want to say this character started on the Beavis and Butthead show, but for as much as I did not like Beavis and Butthead, I love Daria. Like I have
Sure.
the box set of the complete
Nice.
series. It was only like $12 on Amazon at one point, so I bought it. Um it's funny, like when there's nothing on, not so much now with because the kids are always around, but like when I would be at home and there'd be nothing on, there was a channel on Pluto that would just show old MTV animation shows, and Daria would be on for like 12 hours a day. So I
That's
would just put
awesome.
that on, and like I don't know what it is about that show. I don't know if it's because it was like it reminded me of like the funness of high school and like the different cliques and everything, and I don't know. I think it did do a good job of depicting what like American high school was sort of like, maybe a little bit more amped up just for hilarity's sake. But I love that show. I will
I
still
do
watch that
too.
show to this day. And I don't know, like Trent. I love Trent is Janie's brother. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a good show.
I love that they had their own reality show that they used to watch too. The Six
Six
Sad
Sad
World.
World, which is funny because probably a few months ago was the last time I watched an episode. In the stuff they like play up as a joke on Six Sad World, pretty darn close to some of the news today. I'm not gonna lie.
I
Like
would have to go back and watch it.
yeah, like it was pretty out there. But like some of the stuff, it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely a conspiracy theory where people actively believe this now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like, monks from Asia believe
That's right. It
the
was
world,
stuff like that. That's right.
it's like it's Asian monks start group for flat Earth, but they, like just will they walk off the end? I don't know. Stay tuned for Six Ed World. It's like stupid crap like that, but it's like, yeah. I love the fact that the teachers, obviously being in education, like I love how they have all these different archetypes for different teachers. You have the really emotional, um, sensitive teacher. You have the really hard ass, like war vet teacher. You have the principal who clearly doesn't give a crap about the kids at all. There's the one episode where she's got like the pop company is like advertising and putting up stickers and everywhere. They have the episode where they have the DJs come in and Daria just tears them apart. I can't remember what the competition was. Yeah, I don't know. I love that show. Actively love that show. I love how stupid Kevin the jock is. As somebody who played sports, but I wouldn't consider myself a jock by any stretch. Yeah, I don't know. I love that show. Still watch it to this day.
No, that was a great show. It was good.
All right, let me throw another one at you that I remember watching this when it started. It says it premiered in 1998, January 25th, 1998. I remember thinking this show, like, I probably shouldn't be watching this, but I'm going to watch it when my parents are in the other room. And if they come in the room, I'm going to change it real quick. And this is because I was, goody two shoe, really not that bad of a show. Celebrity Deathmatch.
Oh God, I love that. That was on my list too.
I loved Celebrity Deathmatch, and I just remember like the Judge Mills Lane is the ref. Just like Stone Cold always showed up, and as somebody who didn't really watch wrestling yet at that point, I got into wrestling around 2000, so that was a little after Stone Cold. But like, I got the gist of who Stone Cold was. The fact that he was always on the show for whatever reason. They would have these really outlandish matches, but like they were always really, really good. Like I think they had a Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC match.
Probably.
They had Britney versus Christina Aguilera at one point. I don't know. It was just really, really funny stuff.
Didn't it debut during a Super Bowl?
I think you're right. That sounds about, the timeline seems right because if January 25th, I feel like in the 90s, the Super Bowl was still a January thing. It wasn't really pushed into February at that point.
Probably.
I'm looking for best celebrity death match. Man, okay, there we go. Ranking the best fights in celebrity death match. We have at number 10, Kid Rock versus Eminem.
Ooh.
We have number 9, Sylvester Stallone versus Arnold.
Ooh.
Number 8, this was season 1, episode 1. Number 8, Mariah Carey versus Jim Carrey. Just because, and it features an appearance by Drew Carey. It ended when Mariah did a high note and made Jim Carrey's head explode.
I remember that now that you say that.
Hillary Clinton versus Monica Lewinsky.
Oh,
God, talk about timeless. Madonna versus Michael Jackson was number 1. It says, during Death Bowl 99, Madonna and MJ fought in a ring surrounded by a pool of hydrochloric acid. The funniest moments come at the expense of Jackson as he gets knocked into the acid only to reemerge with a version of his face from the 70s and then morphs into a hamster in his last act to win the fight. It doesn't end well for him. That is, I do not remember that at all. But,
I don't either.
No. So, yeah, that show, like, the claymation was really weird. Some of it was really gross, depending on how graphic they wanted to go. Yeah, just a fun, goofy ass show
for sure.
What else you got on your list?
I was a Road Rules person too.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever got into that.
I did. I'm glad. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because I did watch at least one episode one season of Road Rules at some point in the late 90s, but even Eric and I still now, and unfortunately there's not many people from Road Rules that are on it because they're all too old now, but the MTV Challenge, which originally was Real World versus versus Road Rules. We still watch that to this day. The last season just ended about a month ago, and they still have a lot of people from like when we were in high school, so that's kind of cool. But
Cool.
I would love for them to bring back Road Rules. I think that would definitely be fun to watch. Or maybe not. Maybe would a bunch of 20 somethings in an RV just annoy the hell out of me now? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that I could sit through it because I
Yeah.
know like I can't sit through anything on MTV anymore.
No. Besides the challenge, that's about all we watch on there now.
Yeah, like I can't do Jersey Shore. I can't do
No.
16 and Pregnant.
No.
I can't do any of it.
No. I feel like, I mean, obviously we titled this episode The Glory Days of MTV. For me, I'd say it was like, this is when I started watching it. I'd say like 98 to like 04, 05. And then I
I
feel like it started to get more reality based, and that's kind of what lost me.
I would say that the rules for this are going to be the same as Saturday Night Live. Everybody thinks that the best
Yeah.
seasons were when they were in high school.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I would argue that the 80s MTV is good too. It just wasn't our time.
That's true.
Like,
That's
can
true.
you imagine seeing Spring Break, like Adam Sandler on the beach, like that whole
Oh,
thing?
that would have been awesome.
But like
Yeah.
when you're of his age,
Yeah.
like, and plus nothing was ever like that on TV before. So
Right.
that makes me think that like
Dennis Leary. I mean, well, that was what, early 90s, maybe at that point?
probably, yeah.
Late 80s.
I mean,
Yeah.
like it would just be mind blowing. Like somebody my age doing things that I want to do, and I'm represented on TV. Like
Right. How cool is that?
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Were you, to piggyback off of Road Rules, were you ever a Real World guy or no?
Not really.
There was maybe one season, and again, this would have been like middle school, high school, that I kind of got into it and watched the whole season. But that was probably about it. Like it was one of those things where it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. These people, or at this point, these people are probably what, 8 years older than me. Oh man, look how crazy it is. I can't wait to be that age. And then you get to that age and it's like, this is just kind of played up for TV.
Yeah.
But still highly recommend the MTV challenge, which with all those people, who are all now in their mid to late 30s, and they're actually putting them on a different show so they don't get hurt with all the young 20 somethings. It's called MTV Challenge All Stars.
Geriatrics?
Yeah, it's the one that gets pushed to Paramount or Peacock or something.
Or like MTV2 or something.
Yeah, so yeah. MTV2, I feel like, is just 24 hours of that Rob Dyrdek show at this point.
Is it really? I don't even watch. That's another
I
show.
think so. Yeah, I don't watch that either. All right, I do have one that, it's funny. I remember watching this. It was always on like Saturday mornings. The reruns would be on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings when I would go to church and we'd come home. And my mom and my sister and I loved this show. My dad would get so mad at us for watching it because he would just say, I gotta go to work, and these jerks are doing such stupid things, and they're making more money than I'm ever gonna see in my entire life. And he used to get so mad.
What's his thoughts on YouTubers now?
I don't know. That's a good question. He does watch quite a bit of YouTube. I'm not gonna lie, but and that's Jackass.
Oh God, love Jackass.
I have the box set. I think I got it for Christmas one year for my mom a couple of years ago, and it's like the original 3 seasons, and it might be the movies too. The movies are fine. I have nothing against the movies, but the original show is still, I think, where it's the best.
Yeah.
And it's just so homemade and run down on just a crappy camcorder.
Yep.
I mean, nothing fancy. It's insane, the stuff they did. And there's things that, like, that are more not inappropriate, but maybe a little more light, that I've showed my nieces and nephews, like where when they lock someone in in an outhouse and then they put like the ink bomb goes off in there or whatever. Like, I've seen that
type stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen those things so many times, and I will still laugh every time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what that says about me or what type of humor I enjoy. Yeah.
I mean, now that you've mentioned it, I mean, I had it on my list, but now that we're actually talking about it, all the memories are flooding back. Like,
oh yeah.
I remember the the blind driver where he had the stick out the window and he's hitting like all the cars. I remember where they snuck the dog poop into the like the Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
I
Yes.
they had the hearse on
Yeah, I was just you
up on the
literally just hit the
hill,
words. Yes.
and he
And they
opens
kept
and the casket comes out of the back. That's hilarious.
yes.
The random
I
just like fighting each other was always
yeah, on the
funny.
street, I still remember there was one where they had like a guy in a straitjacket and they would pretend he would escape from the back of the car in like a gas station parking lot and just go running and people would be freaking out. Like just stuff that you think about with your friends and you're like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we ever did this?" And then
Oh
they
yeah.
actually did it. Now,
Hmm.
I Johnny Knoxville, I liked, I think the most out of all of them. Bam Margera, when he got his own show, this would have been more when we were in high school. I remember was it Viva La Bam? Does that
Viva
sound
la
right?
Bam.
I remember watching that a little bit, but I don't know Johnny Knoxville. Maybe he's a jerk. I don't know. But Bam Margera always had this edge to him where I'm like, this guy seems more like, I don't know, like a little more maniacal. Like it's
Yeah.
on a different level for him. And I know him and like the guys from the Jacket, like they wrote him out of the last Jackass movie because there was some issues between him and the rest of the cast and all
Well,
that.
he's all
Yeah,
um
I've heard he's kind of lost his.
so it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this because my coworker just met him. I
Oh,
think
really?
last weekend he was at a convention and Bam Margera was there, and he said he was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. He was
Really?
like, he is out of it.
I wonder
And
what the
he said
if
he was a
that's.
good time, but
Oh
like,
yeah,
he was kind of like that, like drunk cousin or drunk buddy that like, and I'm not saying he was drunk at the thing, but he was like that. He kind of described it as like he was kind of a hanger oner.
yeah.
And he was just like, he actually thought to himself, "Where is your handler?" Because
Yeah,
when was the last time you heard somebody met a celebrity at a show and they couldn't wait to get away from the
away from
celebrity?
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. I know Eric has read Steve-O's autobiography, and I know he's been sober for a couple of years now. I've heard he had a really rough go there for a while, and then I know
Oh yeah.
he kind of got cleaned up a little bit. And I want to say he's got like his own podcast and stuff going on now. So he's
I've heard that. Yeah.
I've heard he's doing better. Ryan Dunn obviously passed away in that
Yeah.
car
Yep.
accident, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, not to get morbid, but like, yeah, like, but in terms of the show, there's so many things. Like you said, the thing with the hearse, I cannot tell you how hard. I remember sitting in the living room of my parents' house watching that with my sister and my mom, and just dying. And then in the background, you hear my dad, "This is ridiculous. Why are you watching this?" And I'm like, "Come on, man."
But you know what? Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, it was like our generation's like candid camera kind of thing. They
Yeah,
just took
it
it
really
like a
was.
step further, a
Yeah.
little bit more gross out or a little bit more. A lot of that stuff was legit stunts, and they could
Oh
have
yeah.
been, and I mean, some of it was dumb. I mean, like getting a tattoo in a car on a bumpy road, like that's
Yeah.
dumb. I don't even know why I remember this, but I think it was Johnny Knoxville. Didn't he stick a Hot Wheel like up his ass and then go get a colonoscopy or something?
That sounds about right. I feel like most of that stuff didn't bother me. The stunt stuff didn't bother me. It was anything they did with like food or like Steve-O, like he swallowed a goldfish and then puked it up, or
Oh
put
yeah, I
put an
forgot about
earthworm
that.
through his nose and pulled it out his mouth. Like that was the stuff I had to turn the channel because I would get sick. Like that stuff bothered me, like would mess with me.
No, I
But
get
like
that.
the ones with like, I remember Johnny Knoxville, like for Rolling Stone magazine, they had him like being paintballed at like point blank range with no
Yeah,
shirt on. And I remember there was the episode where they had the guys that I didn't even know what high lie was, but it was where they whipped those like balls at like 90 miles an hour
it's
and
like
they
a
were
pool
whipping.
ball. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
solid.
and they were whipping it at him, and then I think they were starting to throw oranges at him with it too. And um yeah, I could go on and reminisce
Oh
about
yeah, I mean,
Jackasses.
there's for the movie when they rented the car and they ran it through the demolition derby.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
they returned it. The guy's like, I think it was Johnny Knoxville. He's like, I had a little accident. You want to come outside and take a look at it? And there's like not a straight panel on it. It's got a
Mhm.
number like crudely spray painted on it.
Yep.
Yeah, or I mean, I think the biggest one was probably, and it was probably the grossest one too, in my opinion, was when they did the he did the outhouse bungee jumping thing
Oh
or
God, yes.
slingshot thing. Like that,
Yes. Oh my God.
I was like against that 1,000%. I mean, of course, a little part of me wanted to watch it because you're like, there's no way. Like, what
Yeah.
does happen when you do this? But I was just like, who comes up like I
Well,
could see the pranky type stuff. Like we said, like a blind driver or the
yeah.
casket thing. That's kind of, but like, who's like, let's get a porta potty. Let's use it for a week or a month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Let's strap somebody inside it and let's launch it into space.
Yeah. Well, that's like even. Do you remember the one where they had like the little Lear jet and that, or maybe it was even a bigger jet, and they had the jet engines, and then they were trying to like pretend to be waiters behind it delivering food, and then once the jet
Oh
engines
yeah,
turned on, they were getting launched because it was so far. I mean, so
yeah.
strong.
I forgot
Like
about that too.
I. I always thought it was funny when they had the disclaimer saying like this is observed by professionals, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's just so you don't get sued if somebody tries to
Right.
do that. You know what I mean? But
Didn't they?
because I'm
We can move on in a second. Didn't they do something? You said Learjet, and it struck me. Didn't they do something at zero gravity too? Didn't they go up in one of those planes?
oh, they might
And I
have.
think they were like spitting on each other or
I
something at
that
zero
sounds
gravity.
I vaguely do remember that. Yeah, like in the vomit comet or whatever they call it.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Or yeah, I don't know. But I
I
can't even like
totally yeah.
there's so many things that like they used to do to each other that I would be like, I think if some of my friends did them to me, I'd be
I
like,
wouldn't be friends
I'm
with them.
out, dude. Yeah, right, exactly. I'm
Yeah,
out.
there's so many times and maybe at that point they're, they're making good money, so they're like, "Ah, who cares?" But like, yeah, some of that stuff, some of the stuff they would do to each other, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'd want to hang out with these guys
I
cuz
look
like
at you a little differently. Like,
right.
you know,
Right. Or like even Bam with his parents, like some of the crap he put them through on his own show,
oh
like
yeah.
I'd be like, you're not filming in my house. You're not
And I
including us in
and
this,
I don't care how much you pay me. Like,
Right. At a certain point, it's enough's enough. But
yeah.
what else what other stuff were you thinking when we talked about this topic?
Did you watch the Tom Green show?
Oh, yes. That was another one like that would have been like actually that's on on the list here that I have pulled up. Let me see if I can find it. But that would have been maybe like was it 2000?
It was probably
90
in
okay,
around there
it says it started in 1999, January 25th,
Oh,
1999.
just snuck in there.
Just snuck in. But yeah, I remember so if I recall correctly, it was Tom Green, it was his buddy Glenn.
Glenn. Glenn. That
And
worked for the
and,
phone company.
and that's another example of I don't know why I would be friends with him after what he would put
I
Glenn
know,
through.
right?
Um I liked it because it was silly, but then like looking back, it's like was that Tom Green or was it a persona? You know what I mean? Like, was he really that just out there? Or was it
That's a
more just, hey, we stumbled on this thing that's making money. Let's play it up.
that's a good point.
I honestly, and I don't know the answer to that.
And I've never thought about it, to be honest with you, because at that time of my life, I
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
no, I
"Oh,
didn't.
Tom Green's on. Oh, giggle, 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 goofiness, goofiness, goofiness." And then it was like, "Well, I'm going to bed," or like whatever it was. And then I never gave it a second thought.
Well, I don't know if you remember this in when we're done, we can segue into this too, but he did a song that he got on TRL and it became a number one hit. Do you remember the Bum Bum song?
Oh, hell yeah, I remember the Bum Bum
And then I
song.
remember he married who did he marry?
Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore, right? Like
Hmm.
what a weird and he had that movie Freddie Got Fingered with Rip
Yeah,
Torn, right? No, was
yeah,
it Rip Torn?
yeah.
Which I've never seen, but I just
I've
remember
only
like
seen
people
parts of it. I was
losing
like,
their
there was like a
mind.
threshold to my stupid, and like that crossed it. And I was like, I don't
See,
think I'll be
okay,
able to sit through this.
what's funny is there was a movie critic that I used to listen to all the time when he had a show on WGN radio and now he just has a podcast, but he was the only one that said like that didn't walk out of the screening for that movie. But he still argues like if you go back and watch it now, it's like brilliance. Like you have to be in on the joke and I'm like no, I'm going to argue no. And I've never even seen it, but I'm guessing that wasn't it. But
That's an
and yeah,
interesting take, though.
but Tom Green's another guy. I couldn't tell you what happened to him. I feel like he kind of disappeared.
He's just got that MTV money sitting on an island or something, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like Tom from MySpace. He sold and he got out. But speaking of TRL, what was your take? Were you a kid that had to know what the top countdown was? Did you not care because that wasn't type of your music? Carson Daly,
Well,
cool or uncool? I mean, where do you want to go with
eh,
TRL?
Carson. Okay, so I always and I still wonder this. Who the hell came up with these countdowns? And I think we touched on this before because it would literally be like Britney Spears, Eminem, Kid Rock, Corn. These are and like a boy band. It would either be NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or
Right.
the occasional 98 Degrees or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point being, how do you rank? This is apples and oranges. How do you rank this? Because
Well, I just
I was not a boy band guy.
neither
I
was I.
not really like an Aguilera fan or a Britney fan. Like I watched
No.
it for like Corn
The occasional
or
rock band that would be on there,
right
yeah.
or Kid Rock before he went because he's another one that kind of went through
Yeah, I've
the
heard he's
league.
kind of lost it too, yeah.
Or Eminem or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I watched it for the cool stuff, not the poppy stuff.
Yeah.
But it
I
just
feel like when it first started, it was a little more I don't even know what the word is. Maybe like a little more pure. Like I just remember their big thing was, "Oh, you can vote online. You're going to go to our AOL keyword, MTV or
that's
TRL."
right.
And I remember my buddy and I, we would have been in like 4th or 5th grade. This cuz that started a little bit earlier. And I remember us like we were dying so hard to get like I don't know if you remember they would if you could write a message about why you're requesting the song and it would pop up during the
Mm-hmm.
song and be on the scroll
Mm-hmm.
and you could do that on their website or whatever it was on AOL and we would just kept hoping time and time again that like we would come up with the weirdest messages to hopefully get played. I remember us voting for Beastie Boys Intergalactic a bunch because that was a
Nice.
great song.
Hell
I
yeah.
love the Beastie Boys, but yeah, and I still remember, it being Total Request Live, and then I don't. This is burned into my brain. I remember Carson Daly was like, "Yeah, everybody's calling us TRL, so we're gonna start calling ourselves TRL too." And I'm like, okay, and then like when they started once they started having an audience in the studio, I feel like that's where it started to jump the shark a little bit.
Yeah, because it was, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna say that because it was always be like, who are you and what do you want? My name's Stacy, and
Yeah,
I really love the Backstreet Boys, and if
right.
you could play them, that would be totally awesome. Yay! And they would hold up like glitter signs that say
Yeah,
like
the signs.
busted
Yeah,
my guy or some
yeah.
crap.
I just liked it was when it was him up in that studio. They'd have the TV behind him, and then they would constantly like ad nauseum like flash to Times Square, seeing who was
Right.
down there and people would be holding signs up and all that stuff. But yeah, for a time, like I loved TRL and I loved like VH1 would do their top 10 countdown. And arguably, like I would watch that more because it had more of like the low-key rock music or like more of that kind of sensibility stuff. Like it was more Bare Naked Ladies and Third Eye
Sure.
Blind. And like that was the kind of stuff I was into where that wouldn't show up on TRL.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So yeah, but for a time, I know, and then like probably about what 5 or 10 years ago, they tried to bring TRL back. Do you remember that?
That's
It was not.
I
It was
never
not
I
good.
didn't get into it. I think I saw an article or something where
We
they were
we
like, "It's coming
recorded it
back."
on our. We recorded it on the DR and the DVR and watched an episode of it. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. Like the I felt like we were like the old man yelling at clouds. I'm like, A, the music is not good. And B, they would play like 30 seconds of the video and then they would cut to something else or they would start doing countdowns of other things. And I'm like, well, no, that's not what TRL is,
Well,
but
that's what I was gonna say was is like I wouldn't even know what would the music be and if it would be good. And I can't even believe that they would bring it back because MTV and music are like
well,
polar opposites now.
yeah. And that's what I don't understand with like they still do the VMAs. Which I don't know about you. That was something else. Like that was must see TV for a certain period of time. Like I remember when Chris Rock would host it and Ben Stiller was always there doing skits. And like I remember really being into that. And now it's like, well, wait, you don't do videos, right? So like I guess music videos are more of a YouTube thing now. It's not really a TV thing.
Probably. I
But
never watched I don't watch award shows in general. I don't watch
No, well,
the
not
Grammys.
me
I don't
neither.
watch the Oscars. I don't watch anything.
No.
But I will say that the Moon Man was always probably the
Oh, it was
coolest
such a
trophy.
so cool.
But yeah, that's not my world.
I do have to ask, in terms of like early 2000s reality shows that I shouldn't say reality shows, game shows. Do you remember Next?
I do.
That show was awful, but I watched it so much.
Oh wait, I have other ones on my list that we can get
Okay.
into when we get into that.
If you're listening and you don't remember what the premise of Next was, it was literally this giant what type of bus would that be? A giant
just like a tour bus almost.
A tour bus, yeah.
If I remember,
and you
right,
would have 5 people on the bus, and then you would have someone else on the, outside the bus, and one person would get off the bus and go on a date with that person. And then for every minute you were on the date, at a certain point, you could get paid that much money, or you could go out for another date. And if you were on the date for 15 minutes and the person said next because they didn't get along with you or didn't like you, you would get your $15, and then the next person would come down. And like, so stupid. And the people they would find to be on this show, I don't know what their thought process was, but it made for good TV.
Oh yeah. Well, my wheelhouse was, do you remember Boiling Points?
Vaguely. Was that before like a Punk'd kind of thing?
Kind of.
I vaguely I remember the name, but I don't remember the show.
So Boiling Points was like, say you go in to buy a pair of shoes or something. I don't know, like just some random, thing.
Mhm.
And just some random transaction, and the clerk at the store or whatever would try to push your buttons by. You'd be like, oh, I'm a size 10, and okay, let me get it. And they'd bring like a girl's 3, like, something ridiculous. And then they would keep amping it up, and then until you'd get like, I don't know, $10 a minute or whatever. And then finally, when you're like, I've had enough, and you walk out, whatever that is, that's the money that you got. But if you could last like a full 30 minutes, you got like $1,000 or something.
Oh, wow. No. Okay. So, it's coming back to me a little bit.
So that I loved, because it was in the same wheelhouse. But my favorite, and I wanted to be on this show bad.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Was Disaster Date.
Oh, I don't remember that one. That is not what I thought you were going to say.
So Disaster Date, I would watch this to this day, and if they brought it back, I would watch this to this day. So you and I are friends, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say for an example, I'm single. So MTV would come to you and say, well, what does Sean look for in a girl? And you would say, he's into cars, so he probably wants somebody that could go to car shows with, or would, go to racing with, or whatever.
Sure.
A girl that doesn't smoke, a girl, just, like a list, right? So then you would call me and say, Sean, I got this girl that I work with. I think she'd be great for you. You guys should go out on a date. So then they'd set up the date. I would say meet said girl, and she would be the exact opposite of everything that I like. So and this is just coming from real life. So like I said, I'm a car guy. I like cars. So this girl at the date would probably be like, don't you think walking's better for the environment? Or like, just say
just stuff to mess with you. Yeah.
Right. Or if somebody was like a hardcore vegetarian, they would order a steak in front of that person, like that kind of stuff. And then it would just push and push and push until finally someone goes, the hell with it, I'm out. And then it was the same thing. The longer you lasted, the more money you got. Okay. But I wanted to be one of the actors so bad. Like, I would have done anything to just go on terrible dates and get paid to do it.
So, okay, I'm glad you brought that up. My sister, Meg, is in the chat. She said she remembers Next. Yeah, I think her and I would watch that together along with Jackass, which she can attest our dad hated that show. And then Kelly said, how about Room Raiders and Parental Control? Room Raiders, I remember watching a lot. Which
I did too. That was my next one I was going to bring up.
That was a big one. I remember watching that. And if I'm not mistaken, the guy or girl would have so much time to go check out someone's dorm room, whatever. It was usually dorm room. They were like college kids. Yeah. and then they would pick.
Some of them were at their like parents' house too.
Yes, that's true. And some of them were disgusting, which I gotta
no,
hope they were played up for the show, maybe, but I don't know. I could be wrong. But then they would pick someone sight unseen based on their room, and they would go on a date, right? Was that the whole premise of the show?
More or less, yeah. And
Okay.
I think there was what was it? There was something.
Oh, and didn't the three guys or the three girls would be in a van watching the person go through their room,
and then they would give each other like crap. They were like, "Bro, you're in anime, or you're in like whatever it was," and they kind of razz each other.
And parental control was the one where your parent got to pick who you.
Yeah.
There's some really good clips on YouTube. I don't know how I stumbled across those of like people that clearly picked the wrong person just based on what how much fun they had with the parent because the parent sold up their kids so well. And it's like, oh god, you should not.
So the parent. Didn't the parent go out on the date first?
The parents went out on the date,
but there was like an interview process.
The get together, and then the person would pick who they would go on a date with based on the parent, but they had not seen the kid or the that they would be dating. That made for some good TV. Whoever I will is as stupid as reality TV can be. Like, and those shows are still stupid. Don't get me wrong, but like that was good, funny TV.
Oh yeah,
that was really good TV. What about, we talked a little bit about, I just lost my train of thought. In terms of like, oh God, my sister says, forgot about all these shows. They need to bring these back. Yeah, they could.
I'm with her. I'd watch it.
But I think I would get more mad because it would be like a younger generation that would just piss me off. Or right? Or am I wrong? Now, if they brought it back with 30 somethings, I think that would be hilarious. They're like on their third marriage.
Well, yeah, right. Like Room Raiders. Raiders for like people in your 30s would probably be really sad because I'm sure it's like you said, like they're on their third marriage and it's like, well, let's bust into his house. He has a cat and a can of beans.
Yes, exactly.
But
I
don't know.
What else? Did you have anything else on your list that came to mind?
I mean, there was. Did you get into? This was a little bit before us. But I just remember watching it thinking that this is what life would be like. But did you ever get into Singled Out?
No, I did not. But I do remember it. I remember seeing commercials for it.
I watched it a little bit because I remember thinking like, this is what it would be like to be cool. Or like, I thought I was going to have a leg up or something. If I was like, if I watch what the older kids are doing, I'll have life figured out.
Oh yeah. It makes perfect sense. It checks out. Okay, I do have to admit, this would have been maybe like Brandon in the chat says, what about Pimp My Ride?
I have that on my list.
I have read so many horror stories about people like their insurance rates went through the roof when they got those cars back. I don't know if that's true.
So there's a lot that went on behind the scenes of that show. One,
with good old Exhibit.
One, the build quality was terrible.
Okay.
Absolutely terrible. Two, most of them were illegal to drive on the street anyway. A lot of it was show car stuff, whatever. Three, speaking of show cars, I think there was like a clause that they had to bring them to shows now that they...
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know this. When you win a car, if it's a logoed car, like say it's like for a hockey team or a beer company or something, a lot of times you're required to bring it to at least X amount of shows a year.
Really? Well, I remember like when the Hawks were really good, they had that like Chevy Hawks Camaro. Yeah, and that does make sense.
They do it. Yeah. They used to do a different one every year because it was always at the Chicago Auto Show, and it would always be different.
Okay. But yeah, that does make sense. And I feel like I've been somehow on like a Reddit thread of people that said, oh yeah, I was on that show and oh my God, let me tell you how horrible of an experience it was. Like nothing good seems like it came from Pimp My Ride.
There's a YouTuber, there's actually two YouTubers that found one and they went through it. And now granted, it's been sitting for 10 years or 15 years or whatever. But the build quality was just god awful. But
Garbage.
you
Yeah.
would expect that especially somebody in the industry, and we joke about it all the time, like at work,
Mhm.
that hey, these guys can build a car in an hour. What the hell is your problem? Like, I give my guys like hell all the time. I'm like, if hey, I just watched an episode last night.
Exhibit did it great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just now that was reality expanded beyond the realm of realism, but it
Sure.
was entertaining, and it was. I just remember it would be like it would always be whatever you were into to like the 10th degree. It's like Exhibit would be like, "Yo, I heard you like fish, so the whole back seat's an aquarium." Like or like you
Yeah.
saw Back to the Future, we put Lambo doors on your truck or whatever. It was always just it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Like they were searching for the smallest little things, and then that
and
would just be
blow
the
it up.
focus of the car. Yeah.
I remember one, it was a Chevy Blazer, and they're like, "Yo, we put a fireplace in the back because it's a Blazer," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Why?
yeah, that's not getting driven anywhere.
Why?"
Um, okay, I do have a few more. These kind of fall into the more early 2000s, like up to about 2005. So we're getting a little bit later in the timeline here of MTV shows. Um, Brandon says the show was basically Yes and then Heighten. Yeah,
That's a truth.
that's a really good truth.
That's
Um,
exactly what it is. That's what they should have
let,
called it.
let me run through some reality. These were reality shows. This first one, I don't know how much of a reality show it was. I will admit, I was hooked on this show. Um, I blame this would have probably been because the girl I was dating at the time watched a lot, and I watched it because yeah.
The yin to the
Um,
yang.
Laguna Beach. I loved
Nope.
Laguna Beach. Looking back, it's awful. A bunch of spoiled rich kids. And it was so fake. MTV tried to market it as like this is their real life. And it's like, no, it's not. You're rehearsing lines and having them discuss this perfectly so you can have
This
a
is what it's like to live in California or whatever.
right. Right. And then yeah, it was around the same time as like the OC. So like that whole
Right.
vibe was, I'd be walking around with my puka shell necklace because in Chicago thinking I belonged out in California. I did like that one. A couple other ones that I did not watch. The Ashley Simpson Show. I
No,
didn't
hell
watch
no.
that. Meet the Barkers. I totally forgot that was like his second wife, Shanna Mokler. Newlyweds with Nick and Jessica. I did not
Nope.
watch that. I remember the whole thing about
The tuna.
this tuna of the
Yeah.
sea or whatever. Ozzy Osbourne
Chicken of the
show.
sea.
I do remember watching Ozzy Osbourne in that show quite a bit.
The Osbournes, I used to watch that.
Kelly in the chat says I recently rewatched Laguna Beach and it was terrible, but I loved it. Thank you, Kelly. I remember liking season 2. I was not a season 1 guy.
This is why we have 2 TVs in my house.
My sister says she's going to get me a new shell necklace for my birthday. No,
Yeah,
you don't have
hell
to. No,
yeah.
please don't do that.
And then we got to get you like an Abercrombie shirt to go with it.
No, that phase is long past. I'm a Kohl's and Old Navy guy now, Sean. But yeah, I remember I had the puka shell necklace. I had in middle school, I had the spiked metal necklace. I had, I don't know, like the hemp rope necklace for a while. I don't know what I was doing.
I
Um,
had the shark's tooth.
yeah. Oh, I had one of those too. I think my nephew has a shark's tooth necklace now. I think my dad might have bought him one. Cribs. Did you watch a lot of Cribs?
I did like Cribs. Cribs was cool.
I did like Cribs too. The one episode, and it's funny, I was talking to Erica about this over the summer because we went to go see Sum 41 perform with Offspring in concert. And I still remember the Sum 41 episode of Cribs. It was the drummer who he's not in the band anymore, but he still lived at home. This was probably like right after the first song got popular. And so
awesome.
it's just him. They're walking around his parents' house, and he's like, well, this is where my parents sit and watch TV, and this is where we eat the family dinner. And he's like, and this is my room. He's like, and here's my computer, and that's it. Have a great time, guys. And then that was the end of the episode. It was pretty stupid.
That's pretty cool. I did hear that some of those houses were rented.
We're rented, yeah.
And some of the cars were too.
Yeah.
No one should be surprised by this, but like one of my favorite episodes was Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s house.
Of course. Of course.
But for good reason. He had a nightclub in his basement, like a legit, legit nightclub. Not just like, oh, we got lights in a bar. It was like a legit nightclub. and he has a whole western town on his property.
Wow.
And he still has that to this day. He has like picture like Back to the Future 3 or whatever, like your stereotypical western town, the bank, the saloon, blacksmith or whatever. He has it all.
Really?
But like a fun Dale Earnhardt Jr. fact, getting to the nightclub thing. At the time, this is when he was sponsored by Budweiser.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like the second largest consumer of Budweiser in the state of North Carolina. Dude, this is a true story. That the representative from Budweiser had to actually go to his house and make sure that he was not selling it. Because there was truck after truck after truck going to his house. And they're like, what the hell is he doing
with
all
this guy
this
doing?
beer?
Yeah.
And then they went, oh, he's in his, at the time, probably like early 20s, has more money than God, and we give him free beer. Oh,
yeah.
And he has a nightclub in his basement. We got it. The next shipment will be here Thursday. Like, I mean, it was insanity. And he, like, on his podcast, like once in a while, he'll go back and he'll tell like a story from those days. And
I'm sure. I bet. I honestly, I'm tapped out. I can't think of any others. Do you have anything else before we wrap up?
2 more.
All right.
I have True Life.
Oh, yeah. I remember there being a True Life one with people with OCD, and I was like, wow, like I thought my anxiety was bad. It was nothing compared to some of these people, and you kind of felt bad for them. Like I feel like that was when it got serious a little bit on MTV.
Sure. There were ones that you would probably giggle at, and then there were ones where you were like, oh, wow, like that's deep.
Yeah.
That's you know, like anything that had to do with addiction was a little bit of a rough one to watch, probably.
Sure.
Some of them were just goofy, like, you know, I don't know, like I have a weird job or something.
Yeah.
Or I can't think of any off the top of my head. I probably should have done more research on that.
No, but I
sure
think
if we were going to get to it or not.
No, I think you're right. I think it was usually like maybe either like a medical condition usually, or an addiction, or just like something very bizarre that most people don't necessarily deal with on a regular basis. That was
or they were trying to hide it, like it was some secret life kind of thing. I remember one was like, I'm a street racer, and it was like the guy, it was like not even, it was stupid.
I had to hide my identity when I did that one.
That a boy.
Never mind.
The other 2 I had were Unplugged and Punked.
Okay, yeah, Punked. I feel like that first season I kind of got into, and then I just got really tired of Ashton Kutcher in that whole shit.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, I think Punked is a good example. Brandon said there was one called Made. Like,
I wanted to be on a football team,
but I'm a nerd. Oh God, and Super Sweet 16. Yeah, I remember
that.
I couldn't stomach that one.
I could only do it so much. And then when it was like, I wanted the red Ferrari instead of the yellow one. My dad's an ass. Like, no, I couldn't.
I don't know what just fired off in my head, but there's one more show on MTV that I absolutely loved it has not been on any of the lists that we pulled up. And it was only usually around October. Do you remember MTV Fear? Where they would stick all these people in like a haunted asylum or a haunted cemetery, and then they would have to go out and do like tasks to get keys to unlock the, because they had to stay somewhere scary and haunted overnight. And obviously they probably just had people hiding in the dark to scare them and stuff like that. But I remember really being into that. And that was like, they had like the cameras on them, like the facial cameras, so they could watch them as they're, they'd have to go, Susie Jones can't, they thought she was dead, so they stuck her in this cadaver tube, and she was actually still alive, and you could sometimes still hear her banging on the walls. So now you're going to go inside this cadaver box, and you have to stay there for 5 minutes, and then you'll win whatever. My sister says that explains a lot. I don't know what she's referencing, but yeah, I remember watching that a lot as well. And that, as somebody who hates scary stuff, I loved that. Now,
well, it's different when it's not happening to you.
Now she says, now I know why you'd check to see if the doors were locked 10 times. Thanks, Meg. That was more obsessive compulsive disorder, but whatever. So it's a motto. I don't do that anymore, thankfully. But yeah, like the glory days of MTV, it is a far cry from what it is now. I feel like it's just reruns of that Rob Dyrdek ridiculous show, and it's usually, and some of it's like not even stuff that's MTV related. It's like they're just looking for programming to buy and stick on there. So
I couldn't even tell you what channel MTV is anymore.
no, and to be honest, as somebody who has, what is it called, YouTube TV, like they don't even have channel numbers anymore. It's just like, this is the channel, you know what I mean? But there is something to be said. Like there was a good time in the late 90s, early 2000s that like there's some stuff that was must-see TV, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember, like we were saying, like especially with Jackass and stuff. I remember going to school the next day and being like, "Oh, man, did you see when he hit him with the whatever and he fell in the thing and then he pranked him and that guy was so mad."
There's some of those Jackass skits, like, oh my god, just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Do you remember the one where they put him in with the bull and it like flipped him over and he landed on like his neck? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think he was he blindfolded? I don't remember. There was something.
There was some
there was some hitch to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show. Now I feel like I just need to go watch reruns of Jackass.
I was kind of just thinking that. I was like, when we sign off, I might fall down that rabbit hole.
Well, Sean, I have nothing else. You have nothing else. You know what that means.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Whoops, you know what the music means. Our time is up.
This has been an absolute blast. It's been fun. It's always so much fun when we have more people in the chat. So thank you to everyone. Brandon writes in, did humanity peak in the 1990s and early 2000s? Is that why everything sucks now?
That's why Brandon's my boy, because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like The Matrix, they say the simulation was in the 90s. That's why. Anyway.
That's a topic for another time, only because, one, the music's playing, and two, everybody, I'm sure our parents thought that, and so on and so forth. I'm sure, as they say, shit rolls downhill.
I think you're right. Well, again, we are the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back at some point in the next week or two. Until then, take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.